Good morning. So welcome to this week, our new show. We are the Experience New Jersey team. And with this new podcast, we are aiming to promote local businesses, local thought leaders. And with that, today we are welcoming Ellen Donker, who is the publisher and editor-in-chief of Matters Magazine, the president of the SOMA Chamber of Commerce. So welcome, Ellen.
Well, thank you. Nice to be here.
Yes, absolutely. It's an icy snowstorm here on the East Coast today. How are you making out this morning with that?
I have not gone outside yet, so
me neither.
I plan on staying indoors for as long as it lasts.
Yes, yeah. So be safe with that. So I wanted to highlight you today because you are really an important part of the community. You not only own a business here, but you also lead the chamber. So I wanted, to kind of delve into your background, and maybe you can start by telling us a little bit about, you grew up in New Jersey, and kind of give us a little bit of your background before you came to Maplewood.
Okay. So let's see. Yes, I did grow up in New Jersey. I went to Wheaton College outside of Chicago, and then I came back. And my intent, I was an economics major, and my intent was always to have my own company. At the time, I wanted to have a mail order business. So if you recall, a while back, we were all getting catalogs in our mailboxes. We still do, but I just always thought that was just a really interesting kind of business. So I took my father's advice, and I worked for somebody else first before starting my own business. And I actually started my career with a home study correspondence school, which I doubt even exists these days. But it had these courses that we promoted, like a locksmithing course and a bookkeeping course, and you would take that, in the mail. And but then, so I did that for a time. But then I eventually made my way into corporate marketing, and I worked for AT&T. And I worked for the Chase Manhattan Bank doing credit card marketing. And then I got, which was invaluable experience, I have to say, to learn how things are done at a corporate level. That's experience that I have always treasured and never regret my time spent in those jobs. But then I had an opportunity to join up with a former colleague to put an ad agency together. And we took what we loved about working with ad agencies, but we also changed the way, the things that we didn't like that happened with advertising agencies. So anyway, I was a part of that agency for about 6 years. Fast forward, I became a mom of triplets, and I continued working for
hang on, let's not glaze over that. A mom of triplets. And so were your triplets born in Maplewood? Were you living in New Jersey at the time?
Yes. So, yes, at that point, I had been in Maplewood for about 4 years.
And how did you find Maplewood? How did you get here?
It's interesting. Having I grew up in Wayne, which is a big sprawling suburb, not too far from here. But I barely heard about Maplewood. So Maplewood was not I don't think it was on the collective radar of many New Jerseyans, to be honest. I just knew it from an exit on the Garden State Parkway. But my husband's cousin lived here, and she was like, "Oh, this is such a great town, and the commute to the city is great." So we came and looked, fell in love with the town, loved the village. And I had always wanted to be in a town where there was a nice community. Coming from Wayne, where there was no sense of, you didn't really know people. It was a lot of we had 2 big high schools, a lot of strip malls, but there was no center really for getting to know people. So, and that's something that I sensed in Maplewood. And
yeah, that really does make our town very unique. At the time, was the Midtown Direct train line already in effect?
I moved in July of '96. Midtown Direct, I think, came in around September,
Okay.
as I recall. And I
So
always figured that would be a big deal, but I felt like it didn't really take hold. I mean, people were using it certainly, but from a real estate perspective, I think maybe it took a while before people started finding out about, I mean, this fantastic benefit.
right. Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, Midtown Direct now, I think every realtor in town probably uses that as a tagline in some way because we are on the train line to New York City, like a lot of the communities along this train line, and that really gives us a good connection to New York City. So you worked there for several years, and then you came to Maplewood, and you had your triplets here.
St.
And
Barnabas.
yeah, so continue with the story. I'm sorry to have interrupted.
Not at all, not at all. So I did try working part-time at the agency, but I felt like I couldn't do my best. Advertising is a really demanding career. So I stepped back for about 8 years and to be home with my kids. And then I tried to for a while, I was trying to get back into the work world on a part-time basis so that I could be home when my kids got home from school. But it was very challenging. I felt like I couldn't get a very meaningful job. But I did make my way into fundraising, into nonprofit development at a homeless organization. So I did that for about 7 years. But on the side, then eventually I started selling advertising space for Matters Magazine. So, again, going along with the community thing, I loved getting Matters Magazine in the mail. To me, it was like this big highlight. And I thought, wow, if I could work for Matters someday, I would love that. So even though sales wasn't necessarily something that I had experience doing so much, that's what I did for Matters. Got me in the door.
And that was under the leadership of Karen Duncan, which is a mutual friend of ours who has since moved away from Maplewood, but she was also a big pillar of this community and had started the magazine. And so you were doing sales for her for several years. And then at what point did you join the chamber?
So I had been going to chamber events probably from about 2014 on. Not all of them, but I would go. I would go to quite a few. I went to quite a few of them. But I was not on the board until probably around 2018.
Yeah, so we did not overlap because I actually served on the board as well. I mean, I've been a member on and off since moving to Maplewood myself. And I think that my last year on the board was like 2016 or 2017. So we didn't actually overlap. We actually have had a chance to see each other a bit more recently. So because we've kind of come back as active members of the chamber, and you've been putting together some great events. So you joined the board, and then what was your progression from being a board member to becoming president?
As I recall, Deanna Gaylor, who was the president at the time, I believe, or maybe she was. You know what? The memory just.
I know, it's COVID kind of did that to all of us.
I know. I think she asked me to if I would be interested in being vice president. It could be that I had put together a marketing committee for the chamber. So we started putting in some subcommittees so that we could be better organized and just tackle our work a little bit better. So I must have become a VP then around 2019, and then in 2021. Then that meant that I become president of the chamber, or maybe it was 2020. So again, dates are a little fuzzy, but yeah. My term ends in June of this year, so it was a 2-year term.
So what have been some of the highlights of your presidency? Like what kind of give us some of the nitty gritty, the good, the bad, and the ugly of being a chamber president, and being president when the big merger with the South Orange Chamber happened as well.
Right. And I think that I would definitely point out too as the highlight. Unfortunately, when I started with it as president of the chamber, maybe let's see, I guess about maybe 9 months in, COVID hit. And so I started in July. Our programmatic year doesn't start until September. So September through maybe around February, everything was going as normal. And then of course COVID happened. So then we just, we've done mostly virtual events. So although I have to say that they've come off a lot better than I thought. And I think over time we've all gotten better at trying to come up with compelling content for our Zoom calls.
Yeah.
But in the summer, the South Orange Chamber of Commerce approached us asking if we'd be interested in merging. And we had looked at this a couple of years ago, and for whatever reason, it didn't happen. I think South Orange actually had withdrew their request, but they came back to us. And this time we were really determined to make it happen because, as you know, it makes perfect sense. We function as one community here with Maplewood and South Orange.
It does. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when I moved here, I remember our realtor kept referring it as the two towns, SOMA or MAPSO, because some people prefer to say MAPSO instead of SOMA, which is interesting. But yeah, I mean, there are shared school district, some shared services, and I think that that'll be increasing in the next, few years. So it absolutely, I mean, I remember when I was a member, years ago, I had floated that idea, and it just didn't take hold. Like people just they weren't into it. They really kind of wanted their distinct chamber. I actually made that recommendation for the Rotary Club as well. I felt as though, both the Maplewood and South Orange Rotary Clubs were both, small groups of really intense, dedicated people, but that it could be so much powerful by combining forces. So I'm glad to see it, come to fruition. And I look forward to joint events. So that's exciting. So, all right. So that's one of the highlights. What's, to give us kind of some insight as to what are the difficulties in being a chamber president, and kind of what do you see in the community that, could be better, or that we can strive to do better?
I would say that again, our challenges this time around have been unique because of the pandemic. So I have felt like we have been treading water a little bit because it's difficult to recruit. We need more members. We're always trying to be bigger and better, and that was, of course, a prime driver for merging with the South Orange Chamber, trying to better serve our community. And then, of course, you have personnel changes that happen too. So we have a new executive director. So being a small organization, it's you wear a lot of different hats, and another good reason for growing bigger is to spread the wealth. To have more people who are doers. So I guess maybe that element is our biggest challenge, is having people ready to roll up their sleeves and actually do the work.
Right.
There are a lot of opinions, and there are a lot of there are a lot of ideas, which is great, but then it's a matter of actually doing the work. And right now we're in the middle of redoing the website because, of course, with rebranding, we have a new logo now that 7-Layer Studio did for us. But with rebranding, then of course you have to tackle the website, and then you have to,
it's like Pandora's box, it's one thing leads to another. Congratulations on the new logo. I really love it. And Rachel is super talented. She actually did our logo years ago. And I just find that she's so creative and colorful, and it really captures the essence of, what I would think a two-town logo should look like. So kudos.
Well, we were hoping for it to show some vitality and energy, because so that's another thing, another goal of ours is that, the Chamber of Commerce is known kind of as a state organization. It's been around for a long, long time. So we just want to make sure that people see us as having vitality, that we have a lot of energy for having compelling events. And then we also want to make sure that people know what we stand for, again, because we're not necessarily your typical chamber. I won't get into the reasons why, but but we have a tagline: connect, learn, grow. And I'm constantly repeating that tagline at any chance I get, because that encapsulates what the chamber stands for. So, next time I want all of our members to be able to say, when somebody asks them, so, what is that chamber about? Then they can use that tagline and inform people.
So you mentioned a lot of online events, but this week you had an in-person event at the St. James Gate. You had in celebration of Black History Month, you had a panel of minority-owned businesses talking about their experience owning a business in town, and I thought it was lovely and enlightening. Why don't you kind of tell us a little bit about what's coming down the pipe, what other events you have coming up, and also give us the website so that people can go and register for some of these events.
Oh, okay, terrific. Okay, so I'll start with that. The website is somachamberofcommerce.org. It's still the old website, but hopefully in another maybe month or two, we'll have the new one up. In terms of what's coming down the pike, we have a networking event. It's like a fireside networking event. So it's probably going to be a little chilly, but we will be gathering around the fire pit at Gaslight Commons, which is in South Orange, and it's billed as a new member event because what we want is to attract new members. So anyone who wants to come can come. If members are encouraged to bring a friend, and really that's what it takes. Is if we want to grow our membership, we have to personally invite people to it. So that's coming up on Thursday, the 3rd. The sponsors are Chutzpah Kitchen. So, and then the Cannaboss lady will be bringing some beverages that are CBD infused. Then on the March 23rd, which is a Wednesday, generally our meetings are on the 4th Wednesday of the month. So on that one, we will be doing an event about putting your business plan together. And since it's Women's History Month, we will most likely be featuring women-owned businesses. Then on April 27th, I think it is. That date has not been completely nailed down. We have an Ignite Your networking event. So that one is still being put together.
And where will that take place?
I think I believe it's the 27th, if that's a Wednesday.
Mm-hmm. And what's the location for that one?
Excuse me?
What will be the location?
And that we're trying to sort out as well.
Okay.
So, so that's another part of with merging. We're now looking at places in South Orange to hold our events as well. So could be perhaps it'll be at SOPAC. We're trying to work that out, or maybe some other venue. The one in March, we're hoping will be, I believe, at the DeHart Center in Maplewood. Okay. And that will be a lunchtime event.
Yeah, it's good to kind of have some variety because some people, can attend evening events easier than morning events. So I'm just curious, but if you look at the membership, what would you say is the percentage of kind of brick and mortar businesses versus like home-based businesses?
Yeah, that's a good question. Because I think when people think about the chamber, they automatically think about our brick and mortar businesses, our retailers. And I would say maybe 30% would be brick and mortar, and maybe, or let put it this way, retailers. And then maybe another 30% would be non-retailers with brick and mortar, and then 30% home base. So, split like that. And I understand I left out a 10%, which is like unknown. Okay. Not really, but I just, I didn't do that to add up necessarily. Yeah, I think we have fewer retailers than people would expect. A lot of them, our retailers are also part of the SIDs, the Special Improvement Districts. Right. And so we have a lot of confusion around what the chamber does versus what the SIDs do. And that's why I said that our Connect, Learn, Grow tagline is important for us to distinguish ourselves from what the SIDS do. So
yeah. Great. Well, just in a couple lines, if for listeners, what is the difference? What would you say, is a SID, and what do we as the chamber don't do that the SIDS do? Yeah.
So the SIDS, one of their jobs is to bring new businesses into their zone. So in other words, there's Maplewood Village Alliance, there's Springfield Avenue Partnership, and then there's South Orange Downtown. Those are 3 of the SIDS. And so they want to attract foot traffic. So they'll hold events. The chamber used to, at least the Maplewood Chamber, well, both of them used to hold a lot of the events. Now I'm talking like 20 years ago. And when the SIDS came in, they started handling a lot of that. So then the chamber was more of an organization for learning and networking.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that the SIDS bring in that many events for their members that focus on, I don't know if they do any networking events.
Right. Learning and
yeah. So that's why we do the Halloween parade. So we do that event. But that's, in terms of town events, but otherwise what we do they're pretty much membership events.
Okay, great. Well, listen, I really have enjoyed kind of learning a bit more about you and learning about the chamber. As a parting question, we are going to be asking all of our guests this at the end of the show. And so what would you say you learned this week? So I think, okay, this is something that I think I learned over and over again. Okay, so we're all super busy in what we do in our jobs, and a lot of times I'll be like, I've got to get to the next thing, and sometimes people come into our lives. We have opportunities for conversations, or just or to go out for a walk with a neighbor even, but opportunities to connect with one another. And so I have to sometimes put aside that mantra about how busy I am, that I can't take a minute, and instead, have that conversation that I would love to have, or go on that walk, that it's okay. It's okay to take those breaks, because I find that it's actually, it's refreshing. Once I do take that break, I had that situation the other day where I just had to talk to a business owner about business. But then we got off on another tangent, and I got to know her personally, and it was lovely. So that's the only way these lovely moments are going to happen, is if we just give ourselves a break once in a while, and open ourselves up to connecting with one another. Yeah, relationships. It's all about relationships. So my team has told me that I have to answer the question as well. And so I'm going to share my answer, which is, this week in particular is, I learned that it really does take a team, because, we just launched this podcast, and, what you don't see is who's behind the scenes. We have our ops manager, Jenna Kelly. We have Joe Gill behind the scenes, our marketing director. And all of this, wouldn't be possible if they weren't here helping me do this. So I learned that it takes a team, and to appreciate your team for all they do. So hopefully, Joe, you're happy with that answer. Ellen, thank you so much for joining us. It really was a pleasure, and I look forward to seeing you at the next chamber event. And for those who are listening to the podcast, we hope that you will tune in next week for our This Week with the Experience New Jersey team, our new show. So, Ellen, thanks again. Have a wonderful weekend, and be safe out there on those icy roads. Well, thank you, Caroline. Pleasure being with you.